Welcome to the Pint Glass Football Podcast.
Pint Glass Football. I'm your host, Brad Fowler. What's up, PGF Nation? College football is just about a month away, guys, and today we're going to tell you our dark horse Heisman candidates for this upcoming season that you need to watch for. But joining me, like always, my co-host, Alex Higdon. Alex, what is going on?
Brad, I'm going to say this, but then I'm going to correct you. So we are 36 days, 16 hours, 14 minutes, and 56 seconds away from college football week 0. However, if you're a fan of video games, on the 15th, you received and downloaded your copy of NCAA 25 and have already been creating your dynasty or creating your own player so that when the Madden game comes out, you can port yourself over. But as we've been hearing and all over the internet, this game is all the buzz. It seems like EA finally got it right with this game. Hopefully it transfers over to Madden as well. But I'll say this. I think we're in for an incredible ratings bonanza in college football because those who weren't paying attention before are now playing this game, and it's going to draw them in to watch some of these players because the game is so interactive with the entrances, with the stadiums, and the gameplay is excellent. So I think we're actually going to see a bit of a transition of the gamers that actually start watching college football as well.
Alex, did you pick up a copy yet?
No, not yet. And as you know, they've been making fun of me to jump on PS5. I'm an Xbox guy, so I'm in a holding pattern at the moment.
Yeah, so I used to play the old NCAA football back in the day. Loved it. I was always an NCAA football guy, always a Madden guy. And then you know how it is. You get a little older, life gets in the way, you get a little busy, and you don't have as much time for video games. And I kind of fell out of it, just to be honest. I haven't really been playing either one of those games in a long time. This game has so much buzz, has so much hype to the point you just made. I'm really strongly considering going and buying a system just for this game.
Wow.
For real. I'm gonna go. I'm thinking about just buying a system. I haven't bought a new Xbox or PlayStation in several years, and I'm considering getting one just for this game because I'm that excited about it. You're absolutely right. I'm seeing the news articles. I'm hearing the buzz on Twitter and social media. Everybody is talking about this game right now. I think you're right, Alex. I think college football is about to explode. We have seen some huge growth in this sport with the TV ratings the last 2 years. I think with some of the things that we've talked about on this podcast, Alex, the Big Ten expansion, the SEC expansion, it's going to get crazy this year. We're going to see a ton of great matchups, and there's so many exciting players. We're going to talk about some of them today. Now, look, there's a lot of household names, and we'll get to those guys before the college football season gets here. But we thought today it would be fun to follow up our Dark Horse NFL MVPs episode with a Dark Horse Heisman episode. And we've got some names that you guys might not be paying that much attention to that you need to pay attention to. Alex, why don't you kick this off with your first pick for a Heisman Dark Horse?
So, Brad, I'll start this off with the running back. We know, just like similar to the MVP awards, a lot of quarterbacks, get their hand raised for that Heisman, but they're at every now and then they get a running back in there. And I think the running back that could actually win that award this year is Donovan Edwards. He's actually not even on the top 25 for the betting that I saw. And I was just checking out some of the betting sites. He's not even in the top 25. So this guy is definitely a dark horse. That Michigan team, that a lot of those are returning offensive linemen and even offensive linemen that they came in as transfers. We know that they keep a bulky line up front. Alex Orji is a mobile quarterback, so they're going to do a lot of RPOs. There's going to be a lot of option plays in there. Probably 60% or more is going to rely on that running game, and he's going to be a big part of it. So I look for him to get close to possibly 2,000 yards rushing this year.
Yeah, Michigan, defending national champs, don't have the same buzz coming into this year. They lost a lot of key players to the NFL draft, as we know, but this program is still in really good shape. And I actually saw a quote Donovan Edwards said recently, Ohio State, Oregon favored in the Big Ten. He said, quote, "We don't care." I think Michigan's got a little bit of a chip on its shoulder this year. And I think this is a team that could be a little bit sneaky for being a defending national champ. It's kind of weird to say that about a team that just won it. I think they could be a little sneaky in the Big Ten this year. I think because Jim Harbaugh is gone and because they lost so many key players, people are sleeping on Michigan a little bit, but don't sleep on Donovan Edwards. This guy is absolutely for real. You want to talk about a great athlete who can put up big numbers, and they're going to highlight him because we know just because they changed coaches, they haven't changed their identity. Sharon Moore takes over as the head coach. He was on Harbaugh's staff. I think they're going to see a lot of continuity in the play calling, and the philosophy behind this Michigan program is still going to be very similar to what we saw with Jim Harbaugh. So I expect them to run the ball a lot and for him to be featured a lot. A big season from him and a big season from Michigan, he could be in that Heisman mix. I'm thinking running backs as well, Alex. And the first one for me is the rival for Michigan. How about Quinshon Judkins, running back now for Ohio State? If the name rings a bell, you might remember this was a guy that was tearing it up in the SEC the last couple of years at Ole Miss. One of the best running backs in college football the last 2 seasons, over 2,700 yards rushing and 31 touchdowns combined the last 2 years. Now, like I said, transfers to Ohio State. He's got that loaded offense around him, a great offensive line. The reason he's a dark horse and isn't really getting talked about as a Heisman, I think, is because he's going to have to split carries with TreVeyon Henderson. And look, TreVeyon Henderson's one of the best backs in college football as well. So they are going to be absolutely loaded at the running back position. But Ohio State hired Chip Kelly as their offensive coordinator this offseason. And we know that Chip Kelly's his DNA is running the football. And he's also a guy who likes to keep his guys fresh. He's known for rotating players. So I expect both of these guys to get plenty of carries. I think they're going to get a lot of looks out of the backfield. And I think with this offense, they're going to put up some monster numbers on a title contending team. Look, everyone's excited that Henderson came back, and rightfully so. He's a great player. But don't sleep on Quinshon Judkins.
We're talking about a kid that is a dual threat. He's going into his junior year. We saw what he did in his freshman year at Ole Miss. Basically 1,700 yards and 17 touchdowns. Follows it up in his sophomore year, 1,307 yards and still 17 touchdowns. So there's a little bit of a dip. Obviously, you go through changes. People leave the school, so we know what's happening there. But as you said, transferring to this school as a junior, he's going to be looking to push TreVeyon for that starting spot as well as snaps. And again, he is a dual threat guy. Of course, a lot in college, you don't see it as much because it's a lot more of the traditional running, but he actually can catch out the backfield as well. So I think there's a lot of importance there to what he can do for that team as well as what he'll do going forward into the 2025 NFL draft. So, Brad, for this one, I'm going to head to Big 12 country and the new entry into that conference in the Utah Utes. Big up front on both sides of the ball, but now coming back from injury, Cam Rising. Another guy, another one of those quarterbacks that when we start to get into this next draft where I say I don't think it's as bad, I just don't think it's as top heavy, but there's a lot of quarterbacks, and here's one of those quarterbacks that I think will be sprinkled around between probably 3rd and 5th round during the NFL draft. But for this season, I can see him having a bounce back season in terms of what he will be able to do. Coming off of that injury, he's a 5th year senior, so he's taking his 5th year, obviously, for obvious reasons in terms of the injury. But I think we're going to see a lot of good things out of him. He's got his, tight end, actually a high-end tight end. There was a lot that was thought of him in Brant Kuth coming back as well. So you have 2 huge pieces coming back. You have an incredible offensive line. You're going to be the best defense in that division, in the division where they say they don't, and I'm using air quotes, don't play defense. And now you have your starting quarterback coming back. You have your star tight end coming back, both going into years where they could possibly leave for the draft. So they'll be looking to put up big numbers and put up a great showing every Saturday. So I'm looking for Cam Rising to have a breakout season and be a dark horse Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, I like that pick because we've talked about Utah and you kind of mentioned it. I think this team's going to be tough in that Big 12. I think they're going to be a bully. I think they're going to be a team that's going to be tough for a lot of these teams to deal with. And Cam Rising, with all that experience coming back to Utah, coming back from the injury, has something to prove here, a little bit of a forgotten man, so to speak. This is a guy that when we saw him healthy and at his best, he had Utah playing in some big time football games, winning the Pac-12, playing in the Rose Bowl. And this guy's a big-time college football player. And I think you're absolutely right. Utah is kind of one of those dark horse teams in college football this year. And I think that makes him a dark horse Heisman, because don't be surprised, guys, if Utah comes into this conference and wins it year one. I'm just saying right now, I think they have that kind of team. I think they have that kind of coaching, and I think they have that kind of quarterback. Alex, my next dark horse Heisman. How about Ollie Gordon, running back for Oklahoma State? We're going to stick with the Big 12 narrative here for a second, because this guy might be one of the most overlooked players in the nation going into this season. Look, he's the Doak Walker winner from last year. Ollie Gordon led college football in rushing last year with over 1,700 yards. You want to talk about a complete running back? He's got really good speed. He's a home run hitter, not just a guy with speed, but a guy who can run through contact, vision, balance. He's going to be fun to talk about come April, Alex. But for this conversation, I really like his chances because I think he could have a monster season. Now, he got in some trouble recently with a DUI. That might hurt his chances to win this award. It's hard to say. Some of the off-field stuff can be problematic for voters. And I'm not trying to downplay the DUI. Look, it's not a good thing to have happen by any means. But I think on the field, this is a guy who's due for another monster season. And I think Oklahoma State is one of the favorites this year in the Big 12 for a reason. And I think he's a big part of that reason.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about this guy, he is not your typical running back. Stands about 6'1", 211 pounds, and runs a 4.45 40. And like you said, when you talk about his production last year, I just spoke about being able to catch out the backfield. He had a total of 2,062 yards from scrimmage and 22 touchdowns. That includes 39 receptions and 330 yards. That size, that speed, at that weight, yeah, this is a guy, like you said, will run through contact. And this is a guy who came in as a freshman, didn't get the starting job, only had 308 yards, and then got the starting job. And he's not giving it back, folks. Let this be alert for those of you who are playing NCAA 25. If you see me in those streets, I probably might take a stab at seeing what Oklahoma State's about if I'm going to use that in my rotation of teams online. But yeah, like you said, he's going to be a junior this year. He's coming from a long line of running backs that come from Oklahoma State. I mean, Chuba Hubbard recently as well. I'll mention Tatum Bell because anybody that the Shanahans get, they could turn into a guy. He ended up having 1,000 yards rushing. Of course, Barry Sanders and Thurman Thomas in the same backfield. Looking forward to this guy. He's going to be on my watch list, especially looking forward to the draft as well. So I'm going to be paying close attention, but definitely a guy that gives high production, running the ball and receiving the ball. He's another guy that you can probably look forward to having 2,000 total yards this season as well. And so, Brad, for my last dark horse, I went deep. Pause. I went deep into the abyss here. Probably the last time we even thought about a player that could probably have done it. I don't know if we would say Trevor Lawrence, but everybody remembers AP's freshman year and what he did. There's a wide receiver named Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State that is turning everybody's head, and I don't want to say quickly making them forget, but it's kind of making the whole Maserati Marvin thing a little bit thing of the past, just simply by some of the things that we're seeing in practice and in the spring games. Like, this kid looks phenomenal. Jeremiah Smith, freshman wide receiver. We talked about Quinshon Judkins, on this team. We know what their running game is about, but they also have a transfer quarterback, Will Howard, who's going into his, if I'm not mistaken, his 5th year, coming from Kansas State. He's going to be looking to go in the draft, so he's definitely going to be making to have a big showing. And having a guy like Jeremiah Smith, and no, I'm not forgetting about Emeka Buka. Yes, he is a guy as well, and will be one of the people that will be probably a first-round pick as a wide receiver. But Jeremiah Smith looked like he is going to be an absolute monster on this team. And while this team is still together as is, this offensive line, these 2 running backs, and this quarterback, I wouldn't be surprised if Jeremiah Smith breaks out and puts a run together that forces the Heisman Trophy voters to consider him for this award.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't be the first freshman to do it. It's certainly rare, but we've seen it happen. I think Johnny Manziel won as a freshman. We've seen that trend towards younger players in recent years. And look, people who follow college football recruiting, we've known about this guy for a couple of years now. We've known that Jeremiah Smith was coming. This is one of the highest rated recruits ever to sign with Ohio State. Look, this is Ohio State we're talking about. We're talking about one of the bluest blue bloods in all of college football. They've had dozens and dozens and dozens of big-time recruits come through this program. This guy's one of the best ever to sign with them. He is no joke. If you haven't seen some of his tape, pull it up on YouTube, guys, and just look at this guy's skill set. He is being touted as one of the most ridiculously talented wide receivers to ever come out of high school. I think you're absolutely right. For a dark horse MVP that no one's really talking about, he is a guy that could absolutely live up to that hype and possibly grab the college football spotlight this year on a team like Ohio State with that offense, with the quarterback like you mentioned. A lot of players and a lot of guys are going to get targets on this team, but he has the talent to become the guy on a loaded team. He has that kind of talent. So I think it's a great dark horse, and circle that name, guys, because he's going to be a good one. Did you know that Pint Glass Football is more than just this podcast? We have an exclusive newsletter. Sign up for free at pintglassfootball.com to receive articles and insights delivered straight to your inbox. But wait, there's more. We're excited to announce our brand new YouTube channel. Not only can you listen to our podcast on YouTube, but you'll also find exclusive video content waiting for you. So hit the pause button right now and go subscribe to our newsletter, and hit that subscribe button on YouTube to stay connected with the latest football news and our exclusive content. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. We personally love the pick'em game. Just pick between 2 and 5 players to build a pick'em entry. Pick whether your favorite players will have a higher or lower stat total in this week's game for a chance to win big. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. Download the Underdog Fantasy app and sign up today with promo code PGF. That's promo code PGF to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. The official ticketing app of Pint Glass Football is now SeatGeek. I can't recommend them enough, guys. I've been using SeatGeek for years. You want to go to a game this season? SeatGeek is here to take the confusion out of buying tickets, making sure you get the best seats at the best prices. With SeatGeek, you'll never have to worry about overpaying for tickets again. How? They put a 0 to 10 score on each ticket, so you know you're getting a good deal. But here's the real game changer. You can get $20 off your first ticket purchase with the code PGFPOD. That's right, $20 off with code PGFPOD. This season, make every game day epic with SeatGeek. Download the SeatGeek app and remember to enter the code PGFPOD to grab your $20 discount. All right, Alex, my last dark horse Heisman pick for you guys is a name most of you guys are pretty familiar with, I'm sure, but he's not even on most sportsbook lists for one of the Heisman odds. I mean, he's so far down the list, you got to scroll all the way to the bottom at most of these, and I'm a little surprised by it. Travis Hunter, wide receiver slash cornerback slash kick returner, slash athlete. This guy is unbelievable. The best all-around player in college football last season. Yeah, I said it. This guy is back. He had 57 catches last year, 5 touchdowns at wide receiver. Now, he dealt with some injuries, missed some key games for them. But when he was on the field, he was absolutely electric. And on top of that, he was one of the best corners in college football. I mean, this guy was a lockdown player outside, 30 tackles on defense, 3 interceptions. Now, we were talking about Jeremiah Smith and his recruitment. This is a former number 1 ranked recruit in the nation coming out of high school. Unbelievable athlete, a guy that can really just do it all. We've seen some really good two-way players in the past, guys like Miles Jack, Charles Woodson, of course, Champ Bailey. Look, those guys were great. None of them have consistently excelled on both sides of the ball like Travis Hunter. I mean, we really haven't seen anything like this guy. Now, look, Charles Woodson is probably the closest that we've seen. And look, Charles Woodson went on to win the Heisman. He's still to this day the only player to play on the defensive side of the ball to win the award. And we know that was because he was an all-around player who played on offense and was a kick returner as well. Well, Travis Hunter fits that mold, but I think he's even more electric. I think if Hunter stays healthy, and like I mentioned a minute ago, that was a little bit of an issue for him, but if he stays healthy and continues to dominate both sides of the ball like he did last year, and if Colorado wins a lot more games this year, which I think they will in a weaker Big 12, watch out, guys, because he's not even listed, like I said, on most of these sports book odds for Heisman, but I think he has a real shot, Alex.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I'll do some live producing here. We may need to do a YouTube on Travis Hunter and really talk about what this kid should do or what he could possibly do and what he should project at going into the draft, because we know that he's going to leave this year. But an athlete of this magnitude, I get that it's Colorado, and it's possibly being downplayed because he's at Colorado, because it's Dion and all the hoopla. So it could be some of that. That's why he's being downplayed. All this kid has done since he's gotten to college, whether it be at Jackson State or Colorado, is show up and play on both sides of the ball. And we're not just talking about playing, sparingly. If you look at Charles Woodson, he had about maybe 12 or 13 catches. No, like Brad said, 57 catches. Oh, he also had 3 interceptions, 2 sacks. So he's active on both sides of the ball, which lends to my point why I say we may need to YouTube to figure out what is he exactly in the NFL. But in terms of the Heisman, like you said, if he stays healthy, I don't know what's stopping this kid. Like we talked about Ali Gordon, which I think is a great pick. And if he is able to do on the ground and through receiving, I think he could push in terms of these dark horse guys. But outside of the quarterbacks, I don't know why Travis Hunter would be this far down opening up. Obviously, it can move in transition, but I'm not sure why he's that far down. I don't know what it is. This is a guy, like you said, in terms of Charles Woodson, the closest thing to Charles Woodson, or may actually be better than Charles Woodson on the receiving end, because he can do so much more on the receiving side of things, that I feel that he should actually be in the top 15, definitely not at 25 coming into this year. And you know what? Especially not behind DJU. I'll be respectful. DJU. There's no way that Travis Hunter should be behind. I get he's at Florida State, but there's no way from a betting standpoint that he should be behind DJ at Florida State at all.
Yeah, that's a fact. Look, no shot at DJU, but both these guys were 5-star athletes coming out of high school. Both of them were big time recruits. One has lived up to it and one hasn't. I mean, let's just be real here. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'm not sure what they're looking at as far as the odds makers outside of positional value, which we know quarterbacks are going to get more votes, so to speak, because of the positional value. They're going to get more attention. But look, I'm with you. There's no way he should be below DJU for sure, Alex. If you enjoy the podcast, do us a favor and subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Once again, I'm Brad Fowler. He's Alex Higdon. This is Pint Glass Football, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Pint Glass Football Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Twitter at PGF Podcast.
Zencastr is the ultimate web-based podcasting solution. It provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content all from one dashboard. Zencastr's post-production process takes the headache out of audio production. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with a click of a button. Coordinating all your guests to record in person is painful and tedious. Easily invite up to 11 participants per recording with one click. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code PGFP and you'll get 30% off your first 3 months of Zencastr Professional. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story.